Have you ever lost a friend or someone you really cared about? It hurts, doesn't it? We put so much into our relationships that when they end, it feels like part of us is missing. But what if I told you there's a way to deal with that pain? Not by ignoring your feelings, but by learning how to handle them in a stronger way. That's what Stoicism teaches us. And today we'll look at what Marcus Aurelius had to say about moving forward. But what if I told you that there is a way to endure this loss, not by becoming cold and unfeeling, but by gaining true emotional strength? A path that the Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, mastered. A philosophy that allows us to detach without resentment, to love without dependence, and to walk away without regret. Stay with me until the end, and I will show you 5 Stoic rules that will free you from emotional suffering. And if you're ready to take control of your emotions, subscribe now and join us on this journey towards self-mastery. Now let's begin. Rule 1. Understand the impermanence of life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This profound idea applies deeply to our emotional attachments. Often, we construct a narrative about someone's role in our lives, how they should behave, what they should mean to us. But the truth, all relationships are fleeting. One day we are close, the next life moves us apart. Whether through death, change, or growing distance, people leave. This realization is painful but necessary. Think about trying to hold onto a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the quicker it slips away. The more we try to possess someone, the more we push them away. Consider the story of Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher. His student, Emperor Nero, once admired and sought his guidance. But as power corrupted Nero, Seneca was cast aside. Seneca could have fought against his exile, but instead he accepted reality with dignity. He knew that attachment to power or relationships was futile. Instead, he focused on what he could control: his mind, his writings, his virtue. I too have faced this truth. I had a friendship that spanned a decade, filled with laughter, shared dreams, and late-night conversations. Yet as time passed, our bond weakened. I fought to hold on, resisting the inevitable distance. But it wasn't until I embraced Stoic wisdom that I freed myself from unnecessary suffering. I accepted that the friendship had run its course. And in that acceptance, I found peace. Marcus Aurelius would have told us the same. Accept impermanence, and you will suffer less. Instead of clinging to the past, embrace the present and move forward with clarity. Rule 2. Master your emotions through rational thought. We often believe that emotions have absolute power over us. When sadness, anger, or frustration strike, they feel like forces we cannot resist. But Marcus Aurelius challenges this notion, reminding us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Emotional detachment is not about feeling nothing. It is about seeing emotions for what they are. Responses shaped by our thoughts, a breakup, a betrayal, or even the cold silence of someone you care about. They sting not because of the event itself, but because of the meaning we attach to them. Consider the story of Theodore Roosevelt. After losing both his wife and mother on the same day, he was crushed. But instead of drowning in grief, he chose to govern his mind. He retreated to the Dakota Badlands, where he hardened himself through labor and solitude, teaching himself resilience through action rather than passive sorrow. He transformed pain into fuel. Now think about your own life. Imagine you send a heartfelt message to someone and receive no reply. Your mind starts spinning. Did I say something wrong? Do they not care? But step back. The only fact is that they have not responded. Everything else is a creation of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius teaches us to question these assumptions. I once spiraled when a friend grew distant. I imagined rejection, betrayal, when in reality they were simply preoccupied with their own life. The storm existed only in my mind. Detach by mastering your thoughts. Observe them, question them, and you will govern your emotions instead of being ruled by them. Rule 3. Practice negative visualization. At first, this idea may seem unsettling. Why would we willingly imagine losing someone we love? Isn't it painful enough when loss happens naturally? The Stoics, however, saw things differently. They believed that by confronting loss in our minds before it arrives, we strip it of its power. We do not suffer less because we care less, but because we have prepared ourselves to endure. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, do not disturb yourself by imagining the whole of your life's troubles at once. Rather, as each arises, meet it with calmness and self-control. This practice, known as negative visualization, is not about dwelling on suffering, but about cultivating resilience. Consider the story of Steve Jobs. When diagnosed with cancer, he did not collapse into despair. Instead, he embraced the truth that death was inevitable. He used this awareness to sharpen his focus, dedicating his remaining time to his life's work. By accepting mortality, he freed himself from fear and maximized his impact. In my own life, I applied this principle when my closest friend moved away. At first, I felt an overwhelming sense of loss. But instead of running from it, I envisioned what my days would be like without them. I rehearsed the feeling of solitude, teaching myself to find fulfillment in my own company. When the day came, I was not shattered. I was ready. Everything in life is temporary. The more we embrace this truth, the less we suffer when change arrives. Loss is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Rule 4. Focus on what you can control. We suffer most when we obsess over what we cannot control. Other people's actions, emotions, and choices, these are beyond our influence. Yet we waste endless energy trying to shape them, hoping to force an outcome that was never in our hands. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not a plea to surrender, but an invitation to reclaim your personal power. Have you ever poured your heart into a relationship only to feel unappreciated? Perhaps you tried to make someone love you more, or to convince a friend to care as deeply as you did. What did it bring you? Likely exhaustion and disillusionment. Consider Abraham Lincoln. He faced betrayal from those he trusted, endured political losses, and suffered deep personal grief. Yet instead of drowning in resentment, he focused on his response, his thoughts, his choices. By mastering himself, he led a divided nation through its darkest days. I too have felt the sting of seeking validation where it wasn't given. For years, I chased approval, believing that my worth depended on how others treated me. The moment I accepted Stoic wisdom, focusing on what I could control, I became free. I stopped waiting for love or recognition and instead cultivated strength within. True power is not in controlling others, but in mastering ourselves. When we stop demanding certainty from an uncertain world, we gain an unshakable foundation, one that no rejection, betrayal, or disappointment can shake. Rule 5. Reflect on the bigger picture. When we are trapped in emotional turmoil, our world shrinks. We become fixated on our suffering, convinced that this moment of pain is the defining chapter of our lives. But Marcus Aurelius offers us perspective. Will this matter in 5 years? Think back to your worst heartbreaks, your deepest losses. In those moments, the pain felt insurmountable, yet here you stand. Life went on. You endured. You evolved. This alone is proof that suffering is temporary, that what seems catastrophic now will one day be a memory. Consider Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and the author of Man's Search for Meaning. He lost everything, his family, his freedom, yet he found meaning even in suffering. He wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Instead of collapsing under grief, he chose resilience. He saw that life's meaning is not dictated by any single event, but by how we respond to it. I too once believed that losing someone I loved would shatter me. The end of a long relationship left me broken, as if I had lost a part of myself, but with time I saw the truth. That person was a chapter in my story, not its entirety. When I zoomed out, I realized that life had more to offer than what I had lost. Emotional detachment is not about indifference, it is about clarity. It is the ability to see pain for what it is, temporary, survivable, and ultimately a lesson. Life moves forward, and so must we. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever struggled with emotional detachment? What lessons have you learned from letting go? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might just help someone else on their journey. And if you found value in this, subscribe for more Stoic insights on mastering life, emotions, and the mind. Stay strong, stay Stoic.